Hello listeners, it's Mark here and welcome to another off-season SLP short, although this one's really more of a end of season than off-season, as I'm joined by England Rugby League superfan and all-round supporter of the international game, Brian Davies, to get the full-Bri take on the 2018 international season. Welcome to the show, Brian. It's nice to hear from you again. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. Yeah, it's good to be chatting to you again.
Well, it's going to become traditional to speak to you after England performances, Brian, because no one follows the England side more than you. No one's a stronger brick in that wall of white, let's say, than yourself. So I think we should start by going through England. What we'll do is we'll talk about each of the England games briefly. We'll go through some of the views we had from our wonderful listeners. Then, once we've chatted a bit about England, we'll wrap up with the other results that have kind of been going on around the world of rugby league. And that's pretty much what we're going to try and cover off in this, and maybe hopefully about 35-40 minutes. And whenever I say that at the start of the show, Brian, we know it's going to be 3 hours, but we'll try our best. So we're going to. Yeah. So we're going to start with England. Now, the first England game to talk about that I'm going to ask for your input on was the game against France at the Leigh Sports Village, which feels like forever ago now. I missed this one because I was in America and then the app was being how the app was being. So it finished England 44, France 6. 5,144 people was the official crowd that was announced. England had tries to Tom Burgess, a hat-trick to your man from Wakefield, Tom Johnston, Richie Myler on his return, Luke Thompson on his debut, Elliot Whitehead and Jake Connor rounded off the try scoring for England, Connor with 5 goals, Mark Percival with the final goal of that game. So talk us through some of the highlights of that game, Brian.
Yeah, well, it was... It sort of felt like an old-fashioned England sort of match. You know, I've been to lots of these types of matches where England's really just played against, either France or Wales, and they've not really been up to the competition. So, and it felt like it felt very small scale. That crowd, the main stand was reasonably full, and then the terracing behind one end was full. There were a few sprinkled down the other end, and then the stand opposite the tunnel was completely empty. So whether that crowd's right, I'm not sure. It was a good game. I enjoyed it. It was a nice, something to do on a Wednesday night. It was England played really well. I thought our pack was just sort of too dominant for the French. That was a big thing, which then created lots of space for Tom Johnson. He was on the side of the pitch that I was on, so it was great to see him go over and score all his tries. And I know, I've heard, people like sort of Phil Kaplan said, it shouldn't really count as a test match, and it was just an opposed training session. But you can only play what's in front of you. And France obviously rested some of their players, didn't they? So several of their players weren't playing in that one because they wanted to save them for the European Championships and the World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, and England similarly had, what was it, 7 or 8 debutants in the game?
There were, yeah.
Which is a really big number. Tom Johnston scored the hat-trick. Luke Thompson scored a try. Did any of the other debutants beyond those two stand out for you in this game?
In
fact, I think, did Shaw grab a try that I missed out there on the list of what I gave as well?
Yeah, I think he might have done, actually. Yeah, the lad from Cass, was it Ollie Holmes?
Ollie Holmes, of course. Yeah,
Ollie Holmes played this, didn't he? Yeah. So he didn't really look like he was up to it. That he was there. He was the only one who sort of stood out when I looked at him, and I thought, no, you do look like you're stepping up a level here to play in that. I didn't realise you just said that was Luke Thompson's debut.
Yeah, he was on the plane, wasn't he, to Denver? But he watched from the stands.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
You did.
Yeah. Because if you look at him now, you wouldn't think his debut was just back then in straight after the grand final, because he looks like a seasoned international, doesn't he now? So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I thought that there was no one else who particularly struck. I mean, Connor played really well. he had a hand in quite a lot of stuff. And also Richie Myler played quite well in that. But to me, maybe that was the opposition he was up against.
Well, Connor and Myler as the halves kind of set up a try, one each for each other, didn't they? So,
they did, yeah.
So that worked well as a combination in that game. Yeah,
we were also so dominant with the pack. Yeah, there was one. It was Tom Burgess. Was it his one where they just caught it? And I think he had about 2 or 3 French people over the top. But it was just like 6 inches taller than they were, and so much wider. They just couldn't stop him. I think they held him up a bit short, but he just pushed over and reached out and just touched down.
Yeah, and
so I think just that sort of power we had.
And that power showed throughout the first half. It was 38-0 at half time. What was the difference in the second half? Did England slow things down? Did France play that much better, or was it England?
No, I don't think that England necessarily slowed down, but there were changes, in the second half. I think also that France got more to the pace of it, and I think they also got a little bit smarter in how to play it. We just totally got on a roll, and there were several tries we scored that were almost back-to-back tries. We scored and then they kicked off or they made a mistake, and then we went over again. And then in the second half, we'd obviously got it won, and I think that they then France played a little bit smarter to perhaps just sort of spoil the game, break it down a bit, stop the momentum, which is what you've got to do when you're up against a much bigger and stronger team. And obviously there was then opportunities for some of the other players, some of the other squad players to sort of get a decent run out, rather than necessarily James Graham and sort of the Burgesses and whatnot.
Yep, and then so that sort of set things off on a real winning start, but things really changed up in the side that lined up for the first test against New Zealand, with the players coming in from the grand final, in particular the Wigan players that came into the side, and it finished up in that game, England 18, New Zealand 16, in front of 17,649 at the Hull's KCOM Stadium. Tries to Tompkins, Connor and Gildart, and Connor kicking 3 goals to get England to that total of 18.
Yeah, and that was just or a little bit before kickoff. It started hosing down with rain, and it was chuffing cold. So it was wet and cold, and it was a sort of a step up from the Lee match in terms of atmosphere and whatnot, but it still was pretty low key, and the crowd was really, really quiet throughout the whole of it.
And that's despite it starting really well for England with Williams' kick, Makinson's take, and the quick hands from Whitehead and Lomax that got Tompkins into some space.
Yeah, it was. So when they went over straight away, I thought, oh, maybe here we go. Because normally if there's a sort of quick try, it'll tend to go the other way against England. So yeah, we got off to a great start. But I guess that what I was really impressed about in that match was we then went behind, didn't we? The Kiwis got on top, but we sort of hung on in there, and then when we got back on, in front. Those sort of, the last 8 or so minutes is the sort of time when we fold. When the pressure's really on us,
especially
we do
against
stupid.
Sean Johnson.
Oh no, blummer! Every time he was getting the ball, I was thinking, oh god, here we go. The guy next to me was obviously a bit new to it, because he was saying to his mates, he goes, so which one's this Magic Johnson you keep talking about? Then, and then when he got the ball, you could just see he was just skipping across the line, but there were no stupid mistakes from us. We sort of played it really sensible, and I thought it was a really, really professional display. I thought, in terms of that end, which was it wasn't the greatest spectacle to watch, but who cares? I've seen lots of really great England performances for sort of 60 minutes, and then we end up getting beat, and I think I'd rather we sort of ground it out, which we did towards the back end of that. Very, very professional sort of stuff.
Is it fair to probably say that New Zealand were probably the team that played the better rugby in this game, but England had the better moments in the game?
Yeah, I would say so. I thought that there was when they got near to our line, they looked like they were going to cause us trouble, didn't they? Whereas we had a very clear system and clear approach which we were sticking to, and Wayne Bennett Singh comment seems to be, what we've got to do is do the good things, but just do them for longer.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it was. But if you looked at the sort of the magic moments in that game, you'd say they probably came from the Kiwis, but actually we were much more disciplined, which is how the Aussies have always beat us over the years.
Yeah, the defensive resolve, particularly in the second half, where New Zealand were forced into taking penalties as their only options of scoring, was really crucial in this game. And I suppose to round off the conversation about this game, we need to talk about that magic moment within the game, the sort of one real piece of real flair that England put together in maybe the whole game. The John Bateman offload with 3 or 4 men around him to Oliver Gildart in space, who made one of the men of the series, Dallin Zalesniak, look like Ben Barber in defence, and really showed him up. I mean, what was it like in the stadium when that happened? Did you think Gildart had it within him to do that? And how did you feel at the time watching that?
Yeah, that was just absolutely, pure class, because, Bateman's just one of those players, isn't he? When you look at him, he looks, I don't know, like a right sort of little drip, doesn't he? But he's clearly hugely, his strength is massive, and he got that offload. And then it's a bit like the sort of Callum Watkins thing in the World Cup final. Got the break, and you thought, well, the fullback's gonna, sort him out here, and there'll be nobody following. But he sort of took him on, and he made the fullback just look a fool, really, didn't he? Just went in and just went round him, and it isn't often we score tries from a distance like that, but that was real quality, I thought. He only had
that moment as well to do it. It wasn't like it was an open game that there was loads of space and there was lots of long-range tries being scored, kind of like what happened in Denver, where we had a lot of space, and actually so did the Kiwis at times in that game. But in this game, there was none of that space throughout the entire 80 minutes, apart from on the 66th minute or whenever it was that this try was scored, when Gildart found all that space because of Bateman's very late offload.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was brilliant, and it was, and also for him to do it, in that game, and sort of to on his sort of debut to then come in and sort of be calm and to take the chance, because that's what you've got to do at international level. You get very few chances, but you can't be somebody who takes 1 out of 3. You've got to be taking at least 1 out of every 2 or more, really, because you only get a few chances.
And
that was really good.
It did that thing that the World Cup kept doing to us, where every time we want to slag Wayne Bennett off for the choices he makes in his side, the players he puts onto the pitch actually make him look like he's made the right call. I mean, everyone was asking where Percival was, but actually 2 of the standout players in the game were Connor and Gildart, who took the 2 centre berths.
Absolutely, and everybody was going, why on earth they're playing Tompkins in the halves? It's just absolutely ridiculous. But I thought he played really, really well in that match. Not like when he was young and he was making all the breaks and all this, that, and the other, but just clever stuff. Not every one of his kicks was absolutely perfect, but you could just see his experience there and helping to guide other players around.
I thought Williams and Tompkins played really, really well together in this game, and they, like you say, Tompkins took control of organising things, which helped Williams be a little bit more freer to do the good things he could do, and that combination worked really well into the highlight game of the international calendar, really. One of the best games we've seen from England and England playing for a number of years, I would say, and that was the second game at Anfield, which finished up England 20, New Zealand 14 in front of a growing crowd of 26,234, so up 9,500 or so on the week before. So in this game we saw Tommy Makinson score the hat-trick that won him the Golden Boot. Jake Connor as well contributed a try in there. There was goals from Connor, who got it started with a penalty goal early on, and Tompkins, who converted the final try of this game. So this was the first game I was able to get to in person in the series, and what an outstanding game it was.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. It was, and as I thought, the game for England was in sort of two parts. The first on